I want to talk to you about the number one question that I get on the campaign trail. I've been traveling all of Orange and Osceola County for the last year, meeting a lot of wonderful people. But the most common question I get is, we vote for judges? And I think the most important thing that I can do on this campaign, regardless of the outcome, is to try to educate the voters that, yes, we vote for judges. And yes, judges are very important positions in our lives. If you think about it, you're more likely to stand in front of a judge than you are to stand in front of the governor, or the president, or even legislators. And going to court's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you go to court for good things, adoptions, for instance, and sometimes you go to court for bad things. But my whole point is that in your lifetime, a judge, there's a very high probability that a judge will have some effect on your life. And that's why it's very important to be very careful about who you choose for the position of judge. When I first started running, I'm a big numbers guy. So I looked at the voter data, and I want to say I was surprised, but I really wasn't surprised to realize that on these big long ballots we get every 2 years, about 15,000 people stop voting by the time you get to judge. Just don't vote. I don't know these people. And it's kind of tough because it's expensive. It's a lot of work to get out into the community, to introduce yourself to the people. So if I could ask one thing of all of you, it's that talk to your neighbors and talk to your friends and tell them that, why don't we give these judge candidates a look, okay? Now, if you request your ballot by mail, you have time to sit at the Google and, figure things out. I think Osceola sends out sample ballots. I know Orange does.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can certainly do that before you go to the polling place, if you choose to do so. And why is this important? This is important because our court system functions largely on institutional knowledge. Okay? You have experienced professionals who are judges. Judges get 6-year terms because whoever drafted the Constitution of Florida decided that it's important that they have some time in office, because when you rule on a case, you have to base it on the law, which is voluminous, and also based upon the facts of each individual case. And when you have that experience in the community for a long period of time, you get a better understanding of what the facts are, or probably are. I always tell people that you want a judge that you've seen out in the community, because when you explain, this happened over there on Orange Avenue, if the judge has been over here to St. Cloud and knows this area, then the judge is more likely to understand what you're trying to tell her. Whereas if the judge spends all their time on the 23rd floor, downtown Orlando, they might not have the experience to determine the facts that you're trying to explain to them. Now, lately, our courts here in the Ninth Circuit have had a lot of judicial turnover, a lot. We've had a lot of retirements, which is fair, and there's been judges that have been there a very long time. When I first started practicing in 2007, the judges were a lot older. They were a lot more experienced, in my opinion. And when you went to court, you knew what to expect. Now, as a practicing litigator, I go to court sometimes, I don't even recognize the judge. That was unheard of back then. So, of course, there's retirements. There's also resignations. So, the court, for whatever reason, the judge doesn't want the job anymore. And there's elevation. Elevation is when a judge decides that they want to move on to a higher court. I am committed to being committed to our community. I am committed that I will serve the entire term, each term that the voters have me. I will not ask the governor to be appointed to a higher court, because we need judges here with experience. And absent some sort of infirmity, I will make sure to complete each term that I'm elected to, because the voters under our Constitution, have the right to select the judges. And when a judge retires early, they're taking that voter's right to select them away from the voters. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been practicing here in Central Florida for 17 years, so it'll be 17 years in September, perfectly precise. I went to the University of Florida College of Law. When I was in my second year of law school, I was hired by Law School Lamar to be an assistant state attorney, so that's why I moved here to Central Florida. I joined the state attorney's office in 2007, and over the next 4 years, I worked my way up from DUIs and misdemeanors, all the way up through juvenile, all the way up through the felony bureau. I have tried before juries in our community over 70 jury trials. Besides criminal law experience, after I left the state attorney's office, I started sort of a general practice, started doing a little bit of criminal defense. Naturally, the caseload changed as different people came through the door. Primarily, I'm doing family law now, but importantly, at some point in my career, I have appeared in every single division of the circuit court. I have experience I've done civil cases, I've done juvenile cases, I've done...
It's out there.
It's okay. I've done probate cases, criminal cases, and this is important because each of these divisions has its own set of rules. When you go to appear in front of a judge in that division, they expect you to know the rules in that division. So I have had to learn the rules of every single division. In fact, there's one judge who's been around a while, speaking of institutional knowledge, so I've actually appeared in front of 5 different divisions with the same judge. The judges wrote, they alternate every year or so. We, the taxpayers, we put a lot of money into our court system from our property taxes. Now, they will say that the courts are funded by the state, and actually largely the courts bring in a lot more money than they spend. But the money goes to Tallahassee, it comes back to the courts, and anyhow. But what they neglect to highlight is that the counties actually bear a huge burden to the courts. You guys in Osceola have a very beautiful courthouse, like you're getting ready to double it in size. The state's not paying for that, y'all are. Orange County has another beautiful courthouse. Actually they have the juvenile too, so they have 2 really beautiful courthouses. And the Orange County residents pay to operate those buildings. The counties are the landlords for the courts. So you guys are entitled to a return on that investment. And that goes back to what I was saying about institutional knowledge. When you have a judge who gets this great job, I think we'll all agree the judge did a great job, and then 2 months later asks for promotion, then the people in the county that he just accepted the job for are not going to get any return on that investment. And when he does it 2 more times in his first year, you have to ask yourself, what is this person's commitment to my field? I just want to finish on one last point, and I'd be happy to take some questions. Obviously, I'm running in a campaign, and I have to go to a lot of events like this, and I hear a lot of speeches. And one day I was listening to a speech of another candidate, and it started out, having this job is the honor of my life. I'm not concerned about honoring my life. I'm concerned about doing hard work for my neighbors. Having a public service job is not an award. If you want an award, there's plenty that you can apply for online. Having a public service job is a combination of a privilege and an obligation. So when you choose which judges or judicial candidate you support, be sure to ask yourself, is this person committed to my community, or is this person committed to the honor of the job? I'll be happy to take some questions. A couple of rules for judicial candidates that some people don't know. One, you cannot ask me my political affiliation. If that's just the law, okay? And two, you can't ask me how I would rule on any particular issue, okay? But anything else? Fair game. Yes, sir.
Like a beauty pill.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get away from.
What I want to find out is you've been here doing this a long time. Which judge and which temperament do you think you most like?
That's a very good question. Actually, this was in my notes and I forgot to mention. So thank you, sir. The judge, if you walk into a courtroom and the judge is doing all the talking, you're not getting a fair hearing. They call it a hearing for a reason. The way our system is designed to work is the judge is more of the student than the teacher in the room. Two parties present their cases. They educate the judge about the law. I mean, nobody expects that the judge knows all the laws, right? They educate the judge about the facts, and the judge takes this education that is given in this one hearing and then makes a ruling applying the facts that the judge determines are credible to the law that the judge determines applies. But to answer your question, the best judicial temperament, in my experience as a practitioner, and somebody who's watched many live trials, is the judge who is listening to the parties and not the judge who's trying to explain the law to the parties.
Probably good say.
I wouldn't call it a save, but
You do it without mentioning the name.
I would never mention it. I would, yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't know that that's what you were asking. You were asking.
That's good. That's good.
Which one you want to be most like?
No, I'm not gonna answer that one. I believe you did.
No good.
Yeah, we're the other question. Yeah, man, I have a question, Mr. Brown.
Yeah, judges don't have to be certain. You don't have to be a judge.
I'm 42 years old.
No, I mean, I thought they'd be old.
Actually,
He will be.
someday. Strangely, I get that a lot. That's number two. That's your question. Are you old enough for this?
Wait till you get a little bitch. You're your age.
Yeah, sure.
I have a question. Do you travel back and forth between the two courthouses, or do you mostly stay in Orange County?
I have handled many cases in Osceola and Orange, and also Seminole, Volusia.
Now, what if you get
Yes, position.
Oh.
Where do you travel?
That's up to the each circuit and the chief judge, and they have a system where they approximately every year, although when there's vacancies and stuff, they do an administrative order that assigns judges to various divisions. So wherever that I was needed is where I'd be happy to serve.
Now, where is the 9th district include? I know Osceola and Orange.
That's
Is that
it. Orange and Osceola.
That's also
9th Circuit, yeah.
9th Circuit.
Yes, absolutely.
That's all the question, man.
Yeah.
So my vision for the course, remove financial barriers to access. What do they mean?
So, okay, there's two parts to that. One, obviously, when you go to file a case, there's costs associated with that. Now, the judge doesn't have control over the actual costs, but there is ways that the judge can make it less expensive to litigate a case. For instance, I do a lot of divorces, and recently, these requirements placed on lawyers to produce these very, very long pretrial statements, and I have to bill my client for that. So the judge wants me to put my whole trial on paper for 6 or 8 hours. My client's got to pay for that, and then they got to pay for me to go to trial with them. We already have a set of rules. I mentioned each division has a set of rules. I think that those are the rules that the court should follow, and extra hurdles that make it harder to get the relief that you're seeking really don't have a place in our court system.
Great.
So this.
Okay.
All right, now the animal question from Mr. Graham.
Thank you all very